Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another very exciting Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. And today, we have some pretty intriguing Star Wars updates. Now that the High Republic has come to an end, is Lucasfilm interested in going back to the Old Republic? Or is it going to remain largely in Star Wars Legends? Well, it seems as though they might be hinting at something bigger to come. More on this topic in just a moment. But first, stop the presses. Nothing is more important than a new photo of the maker himself, George Lucas, pictured here with his wife at a recent Chicago Sky game. Now, a couple of things to note. As a Brit, I didn't know what the bleeding heck a Chicago Sky was. At first I thought it was some kind of weather event, but no, according to Google it's a WNBA basketball team. I don't know much about American sports. I know about football, and I'm not talking about the one you throw, I'm talking about what Americans call soccer or soccer. But getting back to the point, this photo of George is a classic example of something I love most about him. He isn't like other celebrities, he's humble, and he's human. And every time someone says there's a brand new photo of him, with only a few exceptions, don't expect it to be at some kind of big film event or on a red carpet. Like a rare, benevolent, mythological creature, he's often spotted in the wild, doing something entirely unrelated to movies. He's been seen at food courts, shopping malls, in the background of random science documentaries. Oh my goodness, that clip I could just watch for days. Every single time it comes up in my feed or gets recommended to me, I watch it on repeat. It's hilarious. And with George, it just comes naturally to him. His humility, he seems like such a chill dude. But you might notice something different in this photo. He's not wearing a flannel shirt. That's pretty rare, but at least he's wearing his iconic white sneakers. It doesn't get more George Lucas than this. But with that out of the way, my friends, shall we talk about some big Star Wars news? Let's move on to our big topic of the day. Two massive but unrelated characters are about to make their Disney Plus debut. Darth Revan, mostly found in the expanded universe but a couple of canon mentions, and he of course is from the Old Republic, and Cal Kestis from the canon Jedi games set during the Dark Times. Both characters are about to make the jump into an actual TV show. It might not be a serious one, it's definitely not a canon one, but a Disney Plus TV show nonetheless. I'm talking about LEGO Rebuild the Galaxy 2, Electric Boogaloo. I'm just kidding, it's called Pieces of the Past. It's the sequel series to the one that came out a year ago, where the entire galaxy's been mashed up. The good guys are the bad guys, we have a Darth Jar Jar, a light side Vader, everything is upside down. And in the trailer we see both Cal Kestis, who is being voiced by Cameron Monaghan, as well as Darth Revan. And while fans know this is not a serious TV show, we do have questions, because at least in the case of Revan, it shows he's on Lucasfilm's radar, and it might extend beyond this LEGO show. Him appearing in something other than a video game is a very big deal for Star Wars fans, because according to a wild rumor from Daniel Richman, Lucasfilm is going to take this further. Apparently they're in the process of developing an Old Republic TV show. But after the Acolyte, I don't know if that's a very good idea. It's a very ambitious task. The Old Republic is not just one thing. The era is massive. Thousands of Jedi and Sith, galaxy-spanning wars in every corner, entire empires and armies rising and falling, and that demands film-level budgets and at least a trilogy. If they do want to do something smaller scale, it has to be very contained and focused, and maybe building up to wider connections. To say Old Republic is not the same thing as saying The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, or Skeleton Crew. Even if you're talking about the cluster of stories that are most famous, Revan, Malak, The Mandalorian Wars, the Sith Empire, the Great Hyperspace War, if you want to cover everything in that little stretch, that's still about 1,500 to 2,000 years. But, just like Disney Star Wars has overwritten many other time periods, the new canon version of the Old Republic might be very different, and that in and of itself is a huge risk, because fans who are very invested in the old stories, the comics, the games, the books, they're going to feel very spat on and disrespected. Now do take this with a pinch of salt, and I must say I'm a bit skeptical about the wording of this, because when it comes to live action shows, we know Disney's in the process of phasing those out. There is still going to be Ahsoka Season 2 in 2026. We know there are animated shows like Maul Shadow Lord, but the days of Lucasfilm producing high-budget live-action TV shows are long gone. I don't doubt Lucasfilm wants to do something with the Old Republic, but it's far more likely to be a movie, if they do something serious. We know at some point we're getting a KOTOR remake. There hasn't been a tangible update in quite some time, but we know it is coming. And maybe that's going to be part of a wider Old Republic initiative. I must say, I get the impression Lucasfilm is too scared to do anything with this time period. Even in the recent Timelines book and the Acolyte visual guide, which gave us a full recap of Disney Star Wars canon history, there isn't much on the Old Republic. Some characters like Bane, Revan, and Nihilus have been mentioned here and there, but they're always used as Easter eggs and never as a focal point of a story. So I don't know if Lucasfilm wants to do this. The fact Revan is going to appear in a Lego show kind of proves this. They're willing to use the character if it's something non-serious, where they can just borrow the aesthetic and do nothing else with it. There is some evidence Lucasfilm is thinking about the Old Republic, but in the context of this Lego show, it's just a fun little callback, and nothing else. As for Cal Kestis, similar deal, but at least in his case, with his entire story arc being Disney canon, there's a far greater chance he's adapted into live action at some point. I've had a few people ask me what I think of this show. The first series, The First Rebuild the Galaxy, was a ton of fun. It's a very deliberate parody of the Star Wars universe, which is very on brand for Lego. These Lego specials, which date back quite a few years, have always been a good laugh, to engage with this franchise in a way that has no deep lore or anything too serious about it. And I must say, for the sequel for Pieces of the Past, I love the character of Solitus. He looks to me like some kind of combination of Cad Bane and Darth Plagueis, if that makes sense. But here's a Duros, and a pretty badass one. We got some other celebrity voices returning like Mark Hamill himself. So I'll be watching this and enjoying it. But as for the wider Old Republic, is it going to be canonized? Are they going to make a show or a film? There's a lot pointing to the answer being yes. But then again, Lucasfilm goes back on projects all the time. Kathleen Kennedy recently admitted the reason so many shows and films get scrapped is because they vet stories in the creative process. When they say something is in development, it is by no means a promise. It's not guaranteed to happen, which is why plenty of fans live by the mantra, until there's a trailer, there is no certainty about Lucasfilm announcements, and we've had to learn that the hard way. Plenty of movie announcements from Celebration even just a couple of years ago are almost completely redundant, or at least on hold, so there you go. And so now, my friends, while we're on the subject of future Star Wars projects, we have an update for Simon Kinberg's future Star Wars trilogy. He worked on Star Wars Rebels, and has been part of Lucasfilm for many years, working in collaboration with Dave Filoni and working behind the scenes, and he also had a hand in shaping some of the sequel trilogy. And according to the rumours, he's going to helm episodes 10, 11 and 12. We don't know if they're going to be called that, but this is going to be a trilogy that continues after Rise. And just to recap, there are 5 upcoming post-episode 9 films. There are 2 spin-offs, the Rey movie, that's the one by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, and before that, the 2027 Star Wars Starfighter. And then there is this trilogy. While Simon says he can't say anything about the story itself, he cites Andor as his biggest inspiration. That should come as pretty encouraging news. I'm sure he's figured out some story beats, but in terms of the timeline for the creative process, this trilogy is in its infancy, so drawing inspiration from Andor before they begin is a much better scenario than him saying this after making the first film. So in his own words in a new interview, he says he was awestruck by what Tony Gilroy did with Andor, and he says it's as good as science fiction gets. That is a huge compliment coming from him. Someone who's been at the company since 2012, since George left. Someone who understands how Lucasfilm works, how the story group works. He's humbling himself and saying, look, Tony Gilroy, who didn't know much about Star Wars, did a better job than most creatives who know this franchise. But then a part of me wonders, is this going to make any difference to his script, to the way those movies turn out? Because it doesn't seem like those movies are going to be as political as Andor. The time period is different, the tone I imagine is probably going to be very different. So maybe he's just paying lip service, but if he's serious about studying what Tony did, then maybe there is hope. What do you guys think? How do you feel about these upcoming movies? How do you imagine this story going? Share your thoughts on everything we spoke about in the comments down below.